Hello YouTube world, Mac Daddy 1911A1 here with the Shade Tree Survivalist. The name of this video is Psychological Impact. This will be a companion piece to my next video, the Mighty M14. In this video I would like to broach a subject we, as the gun community and the Minuteman community, and even the professionals seem to miss or simply ignore. The subject, the psychological effect of being outgunned on those actually getting shot at. As an example, how do you think those poor dumb bastards of the Republican Guard, Saddam Hussein's elite fighting force, felt when our A-10 Warthogs and F-16s and F-15s and AV-8 Harrier jump jets were wearing their asses out and their air defenses could do nothing about it? Do you think they said to themselves, man, our great leader really cares about what happens to us? Or how about the crews of our M4 Sherman tanks during World War II as they faced the Panther Mark V's or the Tigers and their 88mm guns? Those are two extreme examples of the hopelessness and helplessness soldiers feel when their enemy seems completely invulnerable to their fire. In some cases, a unit may have 1,000 times more firepower and still get the same psychological ass whooping. How's that, you ask? Snipers, one shot at a damn time, can dominate a battlefield, as well as IEDs. Police officers are not immune to such feelings, especially when faced with an adversary that they can see that they hit, yet the hit had little or no effect on them. It is very common for cops dealing with drugged up gangsters or murderers who simply refuse to understand and obey the laws of human physiology. The perp is dead, but he or she is so high, their brain hasn't got the damn message yet. Of course, our troops have also had to deal with terrorists, not freedom fighters, Miss Hillary fucking Clinton. Excuse me for the F-bomb, I just do not like that daggone woman. Terrorists, hopped up on drugs who refuse to acknowledge they are dead after being shot multiple times. Seeing one's friends and fellow soldiers take a hit in the face or the chest or the abdomen and either die on the spot or be completely incapable of continuing the fight. Yet the enemy's men take multiple hits from your firearms and continue attacking and fighting is frustrating at the least and disheartening at the worst. Men tend to lose faith in not only their weapon systems and training, but also in their leaders and even in their country when that continually happens. How could they send us into combat like this? How could they know about this and do nothing about it? How can they give us such crappy weapons and ammunition that won't do the job? Or when your weapon simply is outclassed in range and the enemy can destroy your forces before you can even get into range to hurt him. That's what happened to our Sherman tank crews during World War II. Nearly every time they took on a German Panther Mark V or its long barrel high velocity 75mm cannon, and especially when they faced the Tigers or the Royal Tigers and its long barrel high velocity 88mm. Only through overwhelming numbers and air power did the Allies defeat them, the German army. But the crews of our completely outclassed tanks paid for that victory with their damn lives. That is what has happened and still happens in Afghanistan to our guys, our troopers, our generation of the greatest generation. Outgunned in both range and stopping power. That is also what happened in Mogadishu, Somalia, back in '93, when Task Force Ranger used a green-tip M855 armor-piercing round against drugged-up militia who didn't even have body armor. That is also what happened in Vietnam. Whether you love or hate the AR, that is beside the point. The 5.56 millimeter round may indeed be a man killer, but it is not a man nor a fight stopper. Shooting your opponent multiple times without seeing the effect or having a body to look at as proof that your weapon system works is not going to boost your confidence in your weapon or your ammunition. This past week, I read that the United States Army is finally going to get rid of the 9mm M9 Beretta. Though the pistol is reported as reliable once they finally got high-quality magazines for it, the 9mm is not doing the job. Well, no shit. Colonel Jeff Cooper and many, many others told them that 30 years ago. Special Forces either stayed with the 45 ACP cartridge or went back to it because it has the thump to stop a fight. Duh. MacDaddy 1911A1 could care less about ballistics charts or tables. I want to know if the men and or women in combat trusted it to keep them alive and to kill the enemy, or if they were frustrated to the point of despair with it. The cartridge, the rifle, the handgun, the cartridge, whatever the case may be. Of course, even accounts from veterans have to be looked at with a critical eye. Not that they are lying about their experiences, but with the understanding that times change, tactics change, weapons change, and weapons change. For instance, old Slabside's 1911A1 handgun. All right? Or the 1911 handgun, the original one. It was originally a rather crude weapon, without decent sights of any kind, or a manageable trigger. And it also was reported to shoot very low when sighted in on a target and fired. So in the early 1920s, those problems were addressed, and the 1911A1 was the result. It had much better sights, a smoother, lighter trigger, and an arched mainspring housing. That helped with the low shots. You can see the arched mainspring housing on this example. You will, of course, notice there were zero complaints about the 45 ACP not having enough stopping power. Yet during the interwar years, the 1920s and the 30s, and early into World War II, matter of fact, all the way through World War II, troopers complained that it was inaccurate. That is where the critical analysis comes in. Go and take a look at any photos or films of that era, especially the training films where they were showing their men how to shoot a 1911 handgun or even a revolver, and you'll understand instantly what I'm talking about. One-handed bullseye stances or shooting, also one-handed, without using the sights to aim with. Both techniques wholly inadequate, especially with a weapon firing a 45 ACP cartridge. Not until Colonel Jeff Cooper began his leather slap competitions in the 1950s did handgun use begin to transform. All it took for this transformation to begin was for a deputy sheriff named Jack Weaver to be soundly beaten at one of those competitions. Mr. Weaver went home and developed his famous Weaver stance. When he returned to the competitions for the next shoot, he literally blew the competition away. Colonel Cooper, like Jack Weaver himself, was a thinking man and knew an act of genius when he saw it. Soon, everyone that competed either adopted the Weaver stance or had zero chance of winning. Not only that, they used the damn sights. Colonel Cooper's mantra, front sight and let the trigger break surprise you. is the foundations of good handgun shooting, along with, of course, the proper grip and a solid stance. Nowadays, our soldiers are taught to shoot on the move and have fancy electronic sights, etc. Yet in a war where their primary weapon cannot reach the enemy, who, though not nearly as sophisticated, knows to simply stay out of range and use their advantage of long-range fire to wear our guys down, our guys have enough to deal with when it comes to IEDs and just having to ID who is a bad guy. So let's adopt a more powerful cartridge and teach them some long-range marksmanship skills, and maybe they'll be on equal footing then. Then they can not only hold their own, but they can also dominate. All of those hard-earned lessons should be another wake-up call to all American Minutemen, and hopefully, one day, to the chairborne commanders of our military, though I doubt it. Our special forces have learned these lessons and on their own set a specification that led to the SCAR-17 rifle. The Navy SEALs wrote the requirement for the ALCUS, the ALCU chassis that eventually became the EBR chassis for the M14. They purchased 45 handguns. They developed a 458 SOCOM cartridge. Then, here recently, the U.S. Marines Force Recon acquired the new M45 1911 and 45 ACP that has a rail on it from Colt. Yet, Big Army spent $2 billion to develop a no-lead 5.56mm armor-piercing round instead of using that money to develop a better rifle and cartridge combination that can not only reach out and touch the enemy, but can also knock his ass flat. Only veterans of small unit combat should be in charge of procurement of small arms. The same folks who understand the strengths of our current small arms, but more importantly, understand the limitations. The perfect all-in-one rifle still does not exist. Though the SCAR and many others have narrowed the search down somewhat, it is still a logistical burden, as well as expensive to have 2 or 3 complete uppers or barrel bolt sections per weapon, not forgetting the mags to feed it and of course the ammunition. In reality, we are not much better off than we were in Korea. We have the 50 cal, 7.62 times 51 millimeter, 5.56 millimeter, 45 ACP, and 9 millimeter, as well as 12 gauge shot shells we have to provide for our men. Hell, we're in worse shape. Back then it was a 50 cal, 30-06, 30 carbine, 45 ACP, and 12 gauge. And that was pretty much it. So we have one more round to deal with now than we did back then. And the Spec Ops have some new 5 millimeter pistol that I've heard about. And the 458 SOCOM, if it has been adopted, then there's a 6.7, 6.5. I can't keep up with what's going on. There's so much crap going on. You know, it drives me crazy to know that the 556 cartridge and the AR-15 are so damn popular, knowing what I know about each. It reminds me of the results of a trucking survey I read long ago. Fully 3/4 of all truckers chose either Freightliner or International as the best trucks on the road. I was astonished and amazed. I've driven both. Both are okay trucks. They can be had with big spacious sleepers, big horsepower, etc. But neither are a Mack or a Kenworth or a Peterbilt. Both tend to break, and when they do, there are long waits at overwhelmed dealers if and when they do. Then it dawned on me. They had a lot of bells and whistles and were very cheap to produce. So large carriers bought only one brand to lessen their logistical burden and of course the paperwork when they're dealing with warranties. And most of the drivers that were surveyed had never driven any damn thing else. Maybe it's the same in the gun community and our military. They have no other experience with any other than the M16, M4 carbine, CAR 15, all these different weapons. They do not have experience with any other weapon system, so they're limited in their vision. They can't see beyond what they have only used. For me, I haven't had the opportunity to fire the latest generation rifle, such as a SCAR 17. Yet I have fired and handled most of the previous generations, including the AR-15. I prefer the reliability and power of the M14M1A and its 7.62 millimeter cartridge over every other rifle. My next video will explain exactly why. If you intend on having a rifle for a without rule of law situation or shit hit the fan situation, I recommend that you do a bit of reading and find out exactly how it does and has done in combat situations. Disregard what Big Army says and the manufacturers. Read the first-hand accounts of the soldiers and Marines who had to depend on it, and also forget Hollywood and its flashy movies. Read what the veterans wrote. That includes police officers. Read about the Hollywood bank shootout or the utter failure of the 9mm during the FBI's Miami slaughter, really, the shootout that happened in Miami. Read about Task Force Ranger in the book Black Hawk Down and the Battle of Fallujah in Iraq. Then decide whether your weapon system is up to the task. Bells and whistles are nice, but results are what you are after, not the cool factor. One day in the future, I may die in combat. But by God, it won't be because my weapons couldn't drop the sons of bitches. And it won't be after watching my friends try in vain to stop them with a useless piece of junk that couldn't do the damn job. My hat is off to Uncle Fester and Lurch, as well as our friends Mike M0331 and ASC Blue Eye, who all have rifles that'll do the damn job. The biggest thing I can say is when you read the accounts of the combat actions from Vietnam era to now, overall I think it will be the frustration, number one, with not being able to see the enemy. That falls directly into the category of personal camouflage video I just uploaded. Number two, not being able to stop the damn enemy. Shoot them multiple times, and you never see a body because the VC always drug their wounded and they're dead off before our guys could get through there. Always left somebody behind to slow our guys down. It was a great freaking tactic. Worked really good. So you lost confidence in whether your firearm would actually do the damn job. Then you get fast forwarded to Somalia. Alright? Our guys having to shoot them 10 and 20 times with that armor piercing round that did not expand, did not tumble. It just did the ice pick effect going right through them. Read. Makes me want to scream when I read about it because they're so frustrated. They're despairing that they're going to survive simply because they cannot get the damn guns to do what they're supposed to do. Alright. Then, of course, you've got the war on terror. Read about the Battle of Fallujah where the Marines were fighting in the city of Fallujah, and how they were having to shoot some of these people over and over and over again because they were hopped up on drugs of artificial adrenaline, cocaine, meth, whatever the case may be. In Afghanistan, the same damn way. In Afghanistan, the ranges are so long. The Taliban and Al-Qaeda know the effective range of our AR-15, M16, M4 carbine, and so forth. They know how far out they can get beyond the effective range. So they get on out there another 50, 100 yards, and our guys can't reach them, and their AKs or their AKMs or their their old bolt action Mosin Nagant rifles, Mausers, whatever, can reach out and hit our guys, and our guys can't do a damn thing about it. Not be able to put an aim shot out there. I've never been in combat in a situation like that. But having read about it, the psychological impact of it, not being able to stop your enemy, It's got to be wearing on some folks. So what I'm saying is do your research before you go out with the prettiest damn rifle and the coolest damn thing. And if you do decide to get an AR, get one in a round, a cartridge that'll frickin' knock a man down. Not one you got to pump him full of holes in order to get the SOB to stop. This is MacDaddy 1911A1. If nothing else, just like most every other video I put out, think. Use your freaking noodle. Use those critical thinking skills that were supposed to be developed in school and life has taught you. Don't just take someone's word for it, a manufacturer, this person, or somebody else telling you this, that, and the other. And even Springfield Armory, their advertisement says bring enough gun. Do your research on it. If you disagree with that statement, then let it be known. If it's too damn heavy for you, fine, whatever cranks your tractor. But I'm telling you, get a cartridge that'll do the freaking job. Get a rifle that'll do the freaking job. This is MacDaddy 1911A1 with Shade Tree Survivors. Thank you very much for watching.